"Hey, how long are you going to keep fooling around?" Turning at the angry shout, I saw the woman in the wheelchair I had helped was also startled by it. "Don't waste my time on such a nobody." "A nobody? What is he talking about?" "Don't waste my time with your unnecessary meddling. That's why you'll always be a dead-end employee." What is he really saying? Prioritizing helping someone in need should come first, right? If I had just left her there, I would regret it forever, but maybe he sees things differently. My name is John, and I'm a drab middle-aged man, still single at the age of 40. My parents have passed away, and I've been living a lonely life for quite some time now. Looking back on my childhood, although we weren't wealthy, my parents were kind, and I spent my days smiling every day. On days off, my dad, Mark, would play soccer with me or take me to the park. My father was tall and slender. Sometimes he would give me piggyback rides. It felt so high and made me so happy. My mother was always kind, preparing delicious snacks when I returned from playing outside. They weren't fancy cakes, but those homemade snacks filled with love satisfied both my heart and stomach. And even when I came home covered in mud with my friends, she would always greet us with a smile. I believed those days would last forever without a doubt. But then, shortly after I started elementary school, my mother passed away. My memories of that time are vague, but I remember crying my heart out. My father could have remarried, but he chose to work tirelessly for my sake, to put me through college. My father, who had always had a weak heart, worked himself to exhaustion to see me off to college, but just after I secured a job following my graduation, he passed away. It was too early a departure, even considering his age. I thought I was finally going to be able to repay him for his kindness. Dad. My father, lying silently on the stark white hospital bed, seemed so much thinner and more frail than I remembered. "Mark always talked about you with a smile," the nurses told me. "He did?" "Yes, he would always tell us and the other patients how proud he was of his son." "Indeed, Mark always looked so happy," they said. From the nurses' words, I knew that my father hadn't felt lonely during his time in the hospital. I was busy earning my college degree and job hunting, so I couldn't visit him as often as I would have liked, but whenever I did, he seemed happy, so I didn't think his condition was that serious. So, the sudden news of his death was a shock, but learning that he passed away peacefully brought me some solace. In an attempt to drown out my loneliness after losing my family, I threw myself into my work. There was no time for romance. Or perhaps I had convinced myself that I didn't need it. Still, I believed my life wasn't bad. Even without a lover or spouse, my co-workers were kind, so I never felt lonely. Sure, I was alone when I got home, but at work, everyone recognized my hard work. Knowing I lived alone, they would occasionally bring me homemade dishes or express concern if I seemed unwell. It was like the warmth of my old home, and I loved being part of it. Living life in this way, I reached my current age. Then, one day, something happened. My boss asked me to join a specific project. "A collaboration, you say?" "Yes, we're planning to collaborate our company's women-focused lunch bags with another company's popular characters to expand our customer base," he explained. "That sounds amazing." "Yes. The lunch bag my company produces for women feature a cute design and are two-tiered. They've become popular since their release due to their compact size and their microwave compatibility. The set includes a bag, containers, and a cutlery set, making it a hit among new employees and middle/high school students. Its affordable price also makes it extremely popular with high school girls, and we've collaborated on it a few times in the past. Collaborations with popular celebrities and icons have always been successful, drawing fans to make reservations and purchases. I was nominated for this project because such results were expected. Feeling recognized for my past efforts, I was delighted. What do you think? Yes, I'd love to. Please, count me in. I accepted the invitation from my boss with a loud, enthusiastic voice. The leader of this project was a man named Alex. I was to assist Alex in this project. Although Alex held the position of section chief, he was infamously known in other departments for not so good reasons. Initially, when the other members learned that Alex was leading the project, they worried, asking, "Is this going to be okay?" However, Alex had graduated from a prestigious university and had a track record of achieving great sales results. Thus, rumors also circulated that he was a promising individual, favored by the department head, Karen. That's why, at our first meeting, we were all nervous, trying to discern which rumors were true. On the first day of the project, Alex stood before everyone and introduced himself as the leader, saying, "I'm Alex, and I'll be leading this project," before proceeding to explain the project's overview. His confident demeanor and serious attitude made everyone listen attentively, though they seemed unsettled by the discrepancy with the bad rumors. Finally, he said, "I think you all understand, but if you don't know something, say that you don't know. Asking questions isn't shameful. Proceeding without understanding is far more embarrassing." His attitude and words were sincere and serious. Perhaps those bad rumors were just a mistake. It must have been someone who couldn't do their job, speaking out of jealousy. I believed that Alex would lead us well and bring this project to great success. Yes, I believed that, but when I approached Alex with something I didn't understand, he retorted, "What? You don't even know something this simple? Excuse me. Isn't this basic? Aren't you embarrassed?" Ha ha, I was ridiculed and laughed at. Was that warm welcome on the first day just a dream? When I asked my colleagues participating in the same project, it seemed they felt the same way. So, it wasn't a dream. This was reality. And maybe I was mistaken, but it felt like Alex was particularly harsh on me. "Ah, you're John, right?" "Yes, I'm John." "So, you're older than me but still single?" Yes." "That's pretty lame, you know. You're not tall, not handsome, just an old man with no redeeming features, a real loser in life, huh?" To say such things to someone's face, his character seemed as bad as the rumors suggested. He would loudly criticize people, making them the butt of his jokes. Those around me were more flustered by Alex's behavior than I was. "Alex, you'll be working closely with John on this project, so maybe you could try not to." "What? It's all true, isn't it? But if our relationship worsened, it would hinder the project's progress." But it seemed unlikely that Alex would change his attitude. So, I had no choice but to endure it. "It's okay, I'm fine. Let's get back to work." Despite the appeals from his subordinates, Alex continued to do as he pleased. Everyone eventually gave up on him, or rather, wrote him off, focusing on preventing major mistakes in our work. Although Alex had a good reputation in sales performance, under his leadership, there were frequent mistakes. Naturally, this led to complaints from other departments. I often had to go apologize to other departments on my own for these issues. Seeing me apologize repeatedly, Alex would laugh again. "Is making mistakes and apologizing your hobby or what?" Although I believed it was his fault that I'm constantly apologizing, I kept silent and endured it, fearing that things would only get worse if Alex left. Although there were frequent troubles with other departments in the company, we managed to avoid issues with other companies and successfully commercialize a collaborative lunch bag for women. It turned out quite satisfying, both cute and practical in design. And then, it came up that we would have a press conference to announce the new product. This announcement wasn't just about unveiling a new lunch bag, but rather about which company collaborated with which character to create what kind of product, making the collaborating company the star of the conference. I wasn't going to be at the conference, but I was called in for preparation. It seems Alex, our leader, is likely to take the stage. Despite his complaints, he seems to be looking forward to it, judging by how he's getting a new suit. I spent my days praying that he wouldn't do anything unnecessary and just look forward to the event until the day of the conference. And finally, on the day of the conference, Alex and I drove to the venue together. We had to cross a mountain to get there, and even on the way, he kept grumbling, "This is such a hassle," and lazily let me do all the driving. Almost over the mountain and close to the venue, I spotted a woman in a wheelchair and slowed down to a crawl. "What's up?" Ignoring Alex, who sounded annoyed, I focused on the woman who seemed to be having trouble with a step. It was clear she was struggling to get her wheelchair over it. Luckily, there were no other cars around, so I didn't hesitate to pull over to the left and stop the car, then rushed to help the woman. "What are you doing?" Alex snapped. "I'm going to help that woman to a safe place. Please wait a moment," I replied, but Alex just scowled and completely ignored me. It was just like him, so I prioritized helping the woman. "Excuse me, I can help you," I offered. "Really?" She seemed surprised. "Sure thing. I'll move it now." Saying that, I took hold of the handles of the wheelchair, stepped back a bit, and then turned it around. I managed to guide her wheelchair backwards to a place without steps or slopes. Upon a closer look, the woman seemed a bit younger than me. But it was clear from her attire that she held a respectable position. "Are you all right?" I made sure the wheelchair's brakes were on so it wouldn't move before speaking to her. The woman then smiled kindly and said, "Thank you, I really appreciate your help," expressing her gratitude with such politeness that I simply shook my head in response. Helping someone in need is just the right thing to do. That's what my father always taught me. "Excuse me, may I ask for your name?" "Of course, I'm John." Out of habit, I took out a business card and handed it to the woman while telling her the name of my company. The woman briefly widened her eyes in surprise, leading me to wonder, does she know our company? "Hey, how long are you going to mess around?" That's when I heard a yelling voice. "Don't waste your time on such a nobody." "What?" "Stop wasting my time with your unnecessary actions. That's why you'll always be a dead-end employee." Alex was yelling and had somehow moved to the driver's seat and started driving the car without me. "I'm going ahead, slowpoke dawdler." After saying that, Alex drove off in my car, leaving me behind. What's with that attitude? Even the woman was taken aback by Alex's behavior, and I couldn't find the words to apologize. "I'm sorry you had to face that just for helping me." "No, it's okay. I can catch a taxi from here." "Thank you so much." The woman kept thanking me, and I assured her it was fine before we parted ways. Checking the venue's location on my phone's GPS, I realized it was within walking distance, so catching a taxi wasn't necessary, which was a relief. Thinking I could make it in time for the conference if I ran, I chose to do so. As I ran up the slight incline, I reflected on Alex's words and actions. Once this project was over, I probably wouldn't have to deal with him again. But working with Alex, I noticed something. He was very subservient to those above him in rank and could get away with small mistakes by charming them. And he was skilled at blaming others for his significant mistakes or making them clean up his messes. Indeed, I was the one who always ended up apologizing since this project started. It's because I felt that aides exist for that reason, and since I'm older, it's natural for me to do the job. I sighed deeply, thinking to myself, no matter how hard one tries, it seems impossible to win against people like Alex. The thought made me feel incredibly frustrated and helpless. When I arrived at the venue, out of breath, the press conference had already started, and I noticed employees from the partnering company glancing over at me. An employee, with whom I had spoken several times during our collaboration, approached me with a look of concern and offered me a glass of water, which I gratefully accepted. Alex was glaring at me fiercely, but I couldn't care less at that point. The press conference went smoothly and ended successfully. "John, what happened?" "I was wondering what happened when that guy came in your car." People from our company knew about Alex's reckless actions. When they asked what had happened to me, I told them the truth about why I was late. About how on my way here, I came across a woman in a wheelchair. About how she seemed to be in trouble, so I stopped my car to help her. And how Alex had just watched us and then left us behind. I softened the harsh words Alex had used, but I'm sure the message was clear to everyone. "What? That's terrible. Alex, what kind of person does that?" There were voices condemning Alex, but he just coolly retorted, "Oh, you got any proof of that? He's obviously lying. Besides, isn't the real issue here arriving late for an important press conference? Isn't that normal? Professionals shouldn't be late for important work. It's common sense, common sense." You're fired." "Fired," Alex said. As he laughed out loud, the many people around him were watching. Alex's behavior was intolerable. We all agreed that once the product was successfully sold and the project was over, we would definitely go and complain about him to the higher-ups. But the next day, the situation took a significant turn. The famously beautiful President Smith came into the morning meeting looking pale. "President Smith, what's going on?" Everyone was naturally buzzing with questions as President Smith suddenly entered. President Smith marched in and said, "This is a serious situation," while looking at Alex, who had arrived late, and her expression darkened visibly. Seeing her beautiful face turn devilish, everyone gasped. Even Alex, faced with her genuinely murderous intent, stopped in his tracks. "You're Alex, right?" "Yes, I'm Alex." "Do you realize what you've done?" "You hurled insults at a woman in a wheelchair yesterday, didn't you?" Alex seemed momentarily confused, but as he remembered, he glared at me as if he thought I had snitched on him. "That woman is the daughter of the president of the company we collaborated with on the project. Her name is Emily, and she vividly remembers you insulting her and driving away." "What? The president's daughter? That woman in the wheelchair?" Alex seemed confused but appeared to grasp the gravity of the situation. "Emily was worried about being in the way at the venue, so she went for a walk. She often moves around alone because she feels bad about having others push her wheelchair. The venue was only a short distance from where we were. I parted ways with Emily, assuring her she was fine, but it was close enough that she could have made it to the conference in time. It seemed a bit far for a walk, but it was understandable. When Emily saw your face at the venue, she immediately reported to President Johnson. Then, first thing in the morning, President Johnson called, furious, demanding that we bring in the man named Alex. What are you going to do about this mess? President Smith's anger showed no signs of abating. If we're not careful, the collaborative product might be discontinued. And since they're a major company, if this gets out, it could look like our company is a problem, affecting future opportunities. Yikes! Alex let out a shriek at President Smith's words. Indeed, if things went as she said, our side would suffer greatly. Alex's assistant, John, was it? Yes. You're coming with me to apologize to them. Yes, I will. Alex's face was pale, and his body was trembling. In this state, he wouldn't be able to make a proper apology. I braced myself for possibly being blamed for everything and followed President Smith. The other company had been informed, and we were immediately ushered into the president's office. As we waited in the luxurious president's office feeling out of place, President Johnson entered. President Smith immediately apologized, and Alex and I followed suit. We are deeply sorry for the great disrespect our employee Alex has shown. I am very sorry. Alex's tremors were so severe he seemed unable to speak. President Johnson and Emily entered the room. You're John from that time, right? I wanted to thank you. I'm glad we could meet, Emily said, approaching with her wheelchair. So, you're John. I'm grateful you helped Emily. Thank you. President Johnson, showing a father's gratitude rather than a business partner's, made me shake my head. No, I just did what any person should. Father, let's not dwell on Alex's issue anymore. Stopping our work now would inconvenience many people, and I understand that. Besides, with John here, I'm sure this company will be fine. Thanks to Emily's support, it was decided to proceed with the sale of the collaborative product. They also promised to continue the partnership as planned. However, as a father, President Johnson couldn't forgive Alex and ensured President Smith would discipline him harshly. Subsequently, Alex was demoted and had his salary reduced. However, perhaps due to his pride, Alex chose to resign and left the company. After Alex left, I began to hear such rumors. It seems he had taken loans from some unfavorable sources and was asking former colleagues for money, saying, "I need a loan." Everyone, including me, decided to ignore him. It was his own fault. After that incident, Emily and I exchanged contact information and started meeting on our days off. Emily had felt insecure about her mobility issues and had given up on the idea of dating or marriage. After I shared that I no longer had my parents and we both agreed that such matters shouldn't be obstacles, we decided to start dating. I'm still working at the same company. Since that incident, I've gained President Smith's trust and am working hard as a potential candidate for the next department head. Indeed, I have been working tirelessly up until now. I've always strived hard, following my parents' teachings. Now, that effort is being recognized and rewarded. My colleagues believe in me and support me. Moving forward, I'm determined to continue working hard for those who believe in me.
We've all switched to a trip. You're covering the cancellation fees, all right. Kevin, who I went to school with, said this to me over the phone. Listening to those words, I couldn't help but think to myself, I knew it. Kevin has always been like this. He's held a grudge against me and has been a nuisance in various ways. However, someone filled me in on the situation, allowing me to get back at him now. I can't thank my classmate Medicine enough. He went out of his way to visit the store. So, I immediately dropped a bombshell. There's no booking. What? Moments later, surprised voices came from the other side of the phone. They didn't realize at that moment the impact of their last-minute cancellation and what was to come for them. And then, what sort of fate awaits them after they storm into the store? My name is Mike. I'm an ordinary 40-year-old man working at a food company. I grew up healthy in the countryside, surrounded by nature. My life has always been steady. People say a life has its ups and downs, but that never applied to me. Because I was decent at studies and could handle sports as well as anyone. So, without experiencing major setbacks, I've led a straightforward life. Living such a life often brings envy from those around you. Mike, you're good at handling everything so smoothly. It's nice to be so versatile. You can do pretty well without even trying. However, to me, this reality wasn't so gratifying. I thought those who strive towards a goal, learn from failures, and grow, seemed more radiant. I wondered if my life would continue to be bland, but then I realized I was just a frog in a well. This realization came when I helped an elderly neighbor. He's a livestock farmer, raising cows and crops, but often short on hands. So, locals and idle youths regularly help out.
Mike, thanks for your help. Here, take this. It's our meat as a token of appreciation.
One day, after helping out, I was given a heavy package of meat as a form of payment. Since I was neither fond nor averse to it, I asked my parents, who run a barbecue restaurant, to cook it. It turned out to be delicious. That moment added color to my life. My hometown is full of delicious specialties, especially the meat. Growing up, I wanted to make this delicious meat available to more people. Now, as an adult in New York, I continue to work in a food company, studying ways to promote local specialties. It's late morning now, and it's almost 12 o'clock. Working in the accounting department, I got up from my seat to use the restroom. While doing some mental calculations, I headed to the restroom and noticed employees from another department chatting in the hallway. They seemed to be discussing a problem, looking quite serious.
It seems we're short on meat for the menu at the upcoming party. Oh, the annual founding anniversary party? Our company prides itself on food, so we'd want to serve quality dishes. That's why it's a problem. The supplier we relied on for quality meat has gone out of business.
Apparently, they were lamenting their inability to secure the necessary supplies. In a small company like ours, even ordinary employees like me quickly become aware of such matters. This proximity makes it easy to approach employees from other departments without hesitation. Thinking of my rural hometown, I approached them.
Excuse me, but would you like me to introduce you to some livestock farmers and butchers from my hometown? I know a few and might be able to help.
The employees' faces lit up with joy upon my offer.
Really? That would be a huge help. It's been tough finding a new source.
They seemed more troubled than I had imagined and expressed their gratitude. Even for a small company party, the founding anniversary is significant for the company's reputation. They wanted to be well prepared. Seeing their brightened expressions made me happy too.
Then I'll quickly give you my contact information now. Do you have something to write it down with?
After sharing several phone numbers and email addresses, I finished my restroom break and returned to work. After finishing the remaining tasks, I was surprised to find several emails from acquaintances back home as soon as I took a break to check my phone.
They work fast. They've already reached out so much.
Muttering to myself as I looked through, I found one from a familiar shop.
They reached out to that butcher too. I gave them the contact to be fair, but I hope it doesn't cause any trouble.
The sender of the intriguing email turned out to be Kevin, a male classmate from my school days. I have known him since middle and high school, and he has quite a troublesome personality. For some reason, he saw me as an adversary and often caused trouble. Since he was a coward, his harassment never went too far, and I didn't mind much, but others might not feel the same. The thought of our company getting on his bad side worried me. I hoped Kevin, infamous as a troublemaker in our hometown, wouldn't cause any issues for the company. After a few days, the long-planned founding anniversary party took place. Unlike big corporations, we booked a modest hotel in my hometown. It's a small place, but it seems to have a decent reputation. At the event, many enjoyed dishes made by our company. As President Anderson always insisted, nearly all employees attended unless they had special circumstances.
The founding anniversary party represents our company, so I hope everyone can join. It should be a fun time.
For that reason, the party was held in a rented grand hall of the hotel, where I unexpectedly ran into a classmate. Recognizing the familiar face, I involuntarily frowned. Wishing to avoid any interaction, I tried to look away and blend into the crowd, but he noticed me.
Watch, you work here? What a coincidence.
Ignoring someone when they speak to you isn't an option. Reluctantly, I dealt with Kevin's matter.
Yeah, I'm in accounting. You always look so gloomy. Accounting suits your dreary personality.
His remark was not only insulting to me but also to my colleagues, making me bristle. Realizing he was present, I deduced the source of the party's meat. Fortunately, despite his disagreeable nature, the quality of his meat was commendable. His shop might be notorious for poor customer service, but the product quality, irrespective of his personality, was reliable. Thus, the taste of the meat served was guaranteed. As I looked at his hand, I saw a large plate piled high with food. It seems he had taken a bit of everything from the nearby tables.
Your company's food is pretty decent for its size.
He was eating messily, dropping bits of food on the floor. I thought he was saying too much and pointed it out, feeling irritated.
Your manners are terrible. You're not a child. Try not to make such a mess. What are you, my mom? I know that.
I admonished him, but he just ignored it. Sighing inwardly, I decided to leave. Staying any longer would just sap my energy for the party. But he continued to hit on female employees and make unreasonable demands on those replenishing the food. I couldn't overlook it anymore and decided to kick him out.
Hey, stop causing trouble for others. You need to leave the venue. What? What are you talking about? Hey, don't pull me.
I grabbed his arm and led him out of the venue. Forcibly taken outside, he glared at me resentfully, but I couldn't back down on this.
You did us a favor by agreeing to the deal on short notice, but you're essentially an outsider. There won't be another deal, right? That may be, but what's the harm? Nobody from your company complained.
Kevin, pouting, seemed oblivious to the discomfort he caused others.
People are just too polite to say anything because of the favor you did. Just don't cause any more trouble, alright? Go home for today.
He looked clearly displeased, but I couldn't compromise on this. As I was about to say more, he seemed to remember something.
Oh right, I had something to tell you about the reunion.
Hearing those words reminded me to review my schedule mentally. There's always been a reunion around this time every year. However, this year, the usual cafe venue is closed, so I was wondering what would happen.
Right, the cafe owner's back pain put him out of commission, didn't it? Yet it's been a hassle. So your family runs that barbecue place, right? Can you sort it out for me?
I couldn't let him cause more trouble at the company, and I owed him for helping out. To get him to leave quickly, I agreed to his request without much thought.
Alright, I'll talk to my folks. Thanks, man. Friends really come through.
His mood brightened instantly, and he started to walk home. His stride was so light, it was hard to believe he had been looking displeased just a moment ago. Relieved that one problem was solved, I let out a sigh. At that time, I had no idea that the conversation would lead to new problems later on. One morning, a few weeks later, on the day he booked the reunion, I drove back to my rural hometown. Since it's just after sunrise, it's quite early to be going out, but I'm heading to the barbecue restaurant. Not to speak ill, but our restaurant isn't doing too well. It's managed more for neighborhood relations and as a hobby than for profit. So, a large booking is rare, and they'd need my help. That's why I left the city in the middle of the night and drove for hours to get there. Upon arrival, as expected, my parents were busy.
Mom, Dad, I'm here to help. Thanks, dear. There's an apron over there. It changed.
Despite being in their 60s and not seeing their son often, they responded nonchalantly. They've always been like that, so I didn't take it personally and quickly got to work in the kitchen. After putting on the apron, I silently set to work. I knew it was going to be tough, but preparing meat for 30 classmates really was a challenge. While a barbecue restaurant might seem easy, there's surprisingly a lot to do. You have to plate the meat, prepare sauces, and manage the tools with care, paying attention to hygiene and safety. As I hurried to get everything done in time, before I knew it, It was time for the reunion.
You can leave the rest to us, go join the guests.
Having been told so by my mother, I changed out of my apron. Then, I moved to the front of the restaurant to wait for my classmates, but no matter how long I waited, none showed up. Feeling a bad premonition, I decided to contact Kevin on my phone. But for some reason, I couldn't get through to him today at all. As I was pondering this, a woman came to the restaurant. It was Madison, one of my classmates.
It's been a while, hasn't it, Mike? Yeah, long time. You didn't come last year, right?
She was my classmate in both middle and high school. I heard she works for an international travel agency. Since she couldn't attend last year's reunion due to work, it must have been 2 years since we last met.
Is work okay? Yes, I just finished a big project. I came to the States with some colleagues. That's good to hear.
I don't have many memories with her. The only thing that comes to mind immediately is working together on the student council. I remember her as someone with a strong sense of justice, always ready to report any suspicious activity or people to the teachers. For some reason, she looked pale. Worried that she might be unwell, I asked in concern,
Madison, what's wrong? You didn't have to come if you weren't feeling well. I'm fine, but did you get the email? Kevin and the others are headed to the hotel. What?
Her unexpected words made me voice my surprise foolishly.
They're going to the hotel. The reunion is being held there, according to the email. What are you saying?
Hearing the shocking news from her, I was confused. When I went back inside to tell my parents, they were both distressed. With a sense of foreboding, I opened my mouth to speak.
Did they cancel on us? You guessed right. We just got that call. Even if they cancel, we've already prepared everything, so it's a problem.
Hearing their response, I was also at a loss. I couldn't believe he would do something so thoughtless. What should we do with the barbecue sets prepared for 30 people? I always knew he wasn't the nicest guy, but as someone who runs a business, he should know the impact of such a last-minute cancellation.
Can't believe they'd do something so nuisance. I'm sorry for noticing you so late.
Muttering in anger, Madison, who had followed me into the store, apologized to me. She couldn't have known about his plan, so there was no way to prevent this. In fact, I had no intention of blaming her since she was the one who informed us.
No, Madison, you don't have to apologize. You came all the way here, right? Yes, I couldn't get through to you on the phone.
That reminded me, I had been so focused on the preparations that I hadn't checked my phone. When I took it out of my pocket and checked, indeed, there were quite a few missed calls. All of them were from Madison.
Sorry, I was so focused on helping out at the restaurant that I didn't notice. Don't worry about it. If it's okay with you, may I bring my seniors here?
As I shook my head in response to her words, she continued, showing concern for the meat in the kitchen.
There are a few people from my company nearby who owe me a favor. They're pretty big eaters, so I think we can handle about 30 servings. Oh, and of course, we'll pay for what we eat. That would really help, but are you sure?
Her offer was a godsend, but I was worried about imposing on her. Then, she said something unexpected.
It's fine. I've always wanted to repay a debt of gratitude to you, Mike.
With no clue, I scratched my head and wondered, did I do something, as I racked my brain? But nothing came to mind. Madison giggled and went on to explain the incident.
We worked together on committee duties when we were students, right? Yet the student council duties.
As her words brought back memories of our school days, one particular incident stood out in my mind. It took a while, but maybe she was referring to that event.
Remember that time long ago when there was a middle-aged man walking around the school with a sickle, and we weren't sure what to do? Yet that really scared me.
When we saw him, I couldn't believe my eyes. Thinking it would be terrible if something happened, I asked Madison to get a teacher. But then, Kevin and some other boys got entangled with a suspicious man on their way home. I don't know what they said, but they managed to anger the man, and things almost got out of hand. At that moment, Madison stepped in between them. I've never felt so cold with fear as I did then.
But I was really relieved when you stopped the man who was about to swing his sickle right in front of me.
It was extremely difficult to calm them down until the teachers and police arrived. Thankfully, it turned out the man was just on his way to do some farming. It's chilling to think what could have happened if he had been a bad person.
I've always wanted to repay you for that time, so this is a good opportunity.
Seeing her conclude her story with a smile made me feel a bit bashful. I remembered she was a woman who valued favors and personal connections.
If that's the case, I might just take you up on your offer.
I said, turning my eyes away in embarrassment, and then got some phone numbers from Madison. Of course, it was to call her seniors. My dad, mom, and I then split up to call and explain the situation, securing the bookings. This managed to avert any loss, but what about them? It seems that while we were busy, Madison had made a call to the hotel. She then shared the details with me.
It turns out the hotel had not accepted their reservation.
She seemed pleased as she elaborated on the matter.
They're known for making reservations at various facilities and then not showing up, so a suspicious employee must have decided not to take them seriously. That's a relief, then.
Not only was I relieved that the hotel didn't suffer any loss, but it also lifted my spirits a bit.
Plus, the reservation was supposed to be at my family's place. They were quite wary of him. What, really? I had no idea. Didn't you say your parents were regular office workers when we were students? Actually, they started working at the hotel after I came of age. Oh, by the way, I heard from my parents that your company had a party at our hotel recently.
I was confused for a moment, but after listening to her explanation, I understood. But I never imagined that the hotel where we held the founding anniversary party would be connected to Madison. Feeling relieved, a bit of mischief crept into my mind. So, I decided to call Kevin, who probably didn't know about this yet. He answered the phone right away, his tone mocking.
What's up? You want to whine about something?
It seems he wasn't expecting his reservation to be cancelled. In a contrived tone, he said, "Oh, that's right.
I decided to change it to a trip. You'll cover the cancellation fee, right?"
Of course, I was anticipating such words from him, so I wasn't surprised. I could only respond to him with a sense of dismay.
There was no reservation. What?
After that, not only his voice, but also the voices of other classmates who seemed to be eavesdropping nearby could be heard. I wondered how many of them were there on the speaker. Even though they were close with him during our school days, thinking that they were still hanging out as adults made me realize they hadn't grown up. Later, I would find out that there were over 20 other classmates with him at the time. Seemingly ordered around by his strong personality, they had no choice but to participate in this harassment. A few of his close friends from school would later regret going too far with their pranks. But at that moment, I didn't know any of this and assumed it was just a few bad apples who were involved. I decided to hang up the call before they could recover and turned off my phone. Feeling a sense of relief from getting back at them was somewhat comforting. A few hours later, thanks to Madison's introduction, a few people showed up, and we were saved. The barbecue meat we had stored with care was quite a lot, but most of it was consumed by them. Especially Robert, an Australian who was a big eater, devoured several portions of barbecue, which was a great help. Madison also joined them and helped consume the leftover meat.
Madison, you don't eat much. You should eat more. You eat too much. I'm normal. Please don't put any more meat on my plate.
I had heard that Robert was in his 50s, but he looked as young as Madison, a man full of vitality. Given his muscular build, he probably needs to eat a lot to maintain his physique.
I never thought there would be such delicious meat here. Coming to America was a great decision. If you're happy, then it was worth the introduction.
It seemed that they really enjoyed the barbecue offered at our restaurant. I was worried for a moment, but it turned out to be a blessing that she was back in town. After the meal, Madison's acquaintances showed interest in the meat they had eaten. Seeing this, my parents saw an opportunity to promote the locally raised meat and started explaining all about it. Neither of my parents are particularly interested in profit, but they are somewhat willing to help promote the local community.
The meat we serve here comes from cattle raised by local dairy farmers. They use a special feed mix for the feed, which gives the meat a refined taste.
They listened intently to my parents' stories. If this connection could help make our local specialty products well known, I'd be more than happy. While working in the city, I've been learning various marketing strategies to promote specialty products, but nothing quite clicked until this encounter. As I was watching this scene unfold, Kevin showed up at the restaurant. It seemed the other classmates had left, perhaps they had gone home. His face red with anger, he stormed in.
Mike, you set us up. We were turned away when we went to the hotel. What's going on?
He stopped mid-sentence when he noticed Madison inside the restaurant.
Did you know from the beginning? Knew my reservation would be messed up and kept quiet.
It's unclear how he found out, but he seemed to understand that she was the daughter of the hotel owner. Her presence in my restaurant seemed to have constructed some conspiracy theory in his mind.
So you've shown your true colors. You've always looked down on those less smart than you, right? You've always got good grades in tests, thinking everyone else was an idiot. That's irrelevant. What are you talking about? I was always compared to you by teachers and parents, sick of being told to study like you.
Unable to engage with his rant any longer, I turned my back to him. However, he moved around to face me.
You've always had that smug look on your face, and I've never liked it.
Saying that, he picked up a small bottle from a nearby table. It was a bottle of barbecue sauce. As I recoiled, thinking he couldn't possibly, he threw it at me. However, before it could hit me, Robert stepped in and caught the bottle. Standing in front of me, he spoke to Kevin in a low voice.
You've been making a lot of noise for a while now, but it's really unbecoming for a grown man to behave like this. What did you say? Basically, you're just jealous of others, right? It's not cool to belittle people just because they have something you don't.
Upon hearing those words, Kevin's forehead veins bulged as he glared at Robert but quickly averted his gaze. Perhaps he was intimidated by Robert's imposing figure. As Robert stepped forward, he recoiled.
Just wait and see. I'll get the other guys to leave a bad review for this place.
He spat out the words with frustration and quickly left the scene. In a prime city location, such threats might be concerning, but this is a countryside barbecue place. We're mostly frequented by locals, so a few bad reviews aren't scary. His efforts were in vain. I sighed and apologized to Robert.
Robert, I'm sorry for airing our dirty laundry. Don't worry about it. You treated me to delicious barbecue, so I owe you one. The quality is really good.
But if you want to keep it as a local spot, I'll refrain from spreading the word too much. He laughed and sought agreement from the others who were also in the shop. Then, those inside the shop nodded vigorously. Seeing such a response, Robert winked at me and added reassuring words.
In return, don't hesitate to ask for help when you're in trouble.
Afterward, they politely thanked my parents for the meal and left. Birds of a feather flock together, as the proverb goes. Watching their conduct, I was convinced that they were acquaintances of Madison. Half a year later, I returned to my hometown to attend the funeral of an elderly neighbor who had passed away. During this time, I discovered something astonishing about Kevin. Apparently, his butcher shop had gone out of business. It seems that customers stopped coming due to the emergence of a better butcher shop. The neighbors are saying this.
Now that there's a new butcher shop, we can shop there too. If I don't have to go to his place, I'd rather go somewhere else.
It seemed the emergence of a rival shop had impacted him. Visiting the rumored store, I understood why it was well received. The customer service was excellent. Nobody wants to be served by someone with a bad attitude.
Kevin kept complaining, why did my shop fail? But it seemed like a natural outcome.
After attending the funeral, I didn't forget to help out at the barbecue restaurant. However, contrary to expectations, I was also surprised to find it thriving.
Excuse me for asking, but why did you choose our place? Oh, I saw a post on social media saying there's a great hidden gem here. People were also talking about the local handicrafts and stuff, so I wanted to check it out.
It seemed someone had been promoting the area. At the time, I didn't know who was behind it, but I later found out from an email exchange with Madison.
It's been a while. Can I share something I heard?
The email started with this and went on to describe the aftermath of the reservation fiasco.
It seems the other classmates thought what Kevin did was wrong too. So when I asked them not to be part of something bad, they understood. To make amends, they promoted various things on social media.
In other words, it seems she managed to persuade our classmates after that last-minute cancellation fiasco. Despite my immediate return to the city due to work, she seriously took action to resolve the issue. The scene before me was also thanks to Madison's efforts. Even if Kevin had left a bad review, it wouldn't have mattered much, but her kindness was truly appreciated. Upon receiving her email, I made sure to send a grateful reply.
Thanks, Madison, you really helped us out. The local area is thriving too. I'd like to properly thank you sometime, so could you keep your schedule open for me?
After that, we began to exchange emails more frequently. Talking to her, I discovered we shared the same hobbies and liked the same actors and movies. Since we hadn't interacted much during our school days, I hadn't expected we'd have much to talk about in our private lives. However, everyone has aspects that aren't visible from the outside. I never imagined I'd find common ground with her on various topics. Several months later, while smoothly handling my job, I received a certain piece of news from Madison, with whom I'd been exchanging emails as a friend. It was about Kevin.
He seems to have struggled to find a new job, and perhaps because of that, he ended up getting involved in a crime, becoming the talk of the town.
Finding himself at a dead end, he acted out of desperation and seemingly got involved in some shady dealings. As a result, he ended up being taken care of by the police. Given his past actions, the backlash he faced from many was perhaps inevitable. Unlike Madison, who had her unexpected sides, he appeared to be quite straightforward. And then, a year passed since the cancellation fiasco. A reunion was organized again, and I found myself visiting the hotel owned by Madison's family. There, I received sincere apologies from the classmates about the previous cancellation incident.
I'm sorry about last time. Kevin was so insistent, and we couldn't refuse, so we ended up participating in that unpleasantness. I really regret it. It was such a foolish thing to do.
They seemed genuinely remorseful, so I let them know I wasn't holding a grudge. After all, if he hadn't instigated it, they probably wouldn't have participated in the first place. This year's reunion, held at the hotel managed by Madison's parents, started amidst such circumstances. All of us, including Madison, gathered and spent a pleasant time reminiscing about various old times.
It seems our hometown is getting quite a bit of attention lately. I saw it on TV the other day. Yet it seems the local area is gradually becoming more vibrant, and more young people are moving here.
Having thought about ways to revitalize our hometown for a long time, I couldn't be happier with these developments. I hadn't expected that seeing unfamiliar faces in my hometown, to which I had returned after a long while, would bring me such joy. The key is to ensure this buzz isn't just a temporary surge. With that in mind, I'm getting psyched to find what I can do. Yet, there was also a hint of uncertainty.
I've learned a lot in the city, but maybe it's not going so well because I'm on my own. Maybe I should have sought others' help. Was everything I did up to now in vain?
Spilling these farts, Madison offered her encouragement.
That's not true at all. There's still much to be done. If you think you can't do it alone, I'll help you. and so will Robert.
I pictured Robert, who had started calling occasionally since the reservation incident. His cheerful demeanor and genuine personality, always looking out for the younger folks. I think he might be able to help if I consult with him.
Thanks, Madison. I'm feeling a bit more hopeful now. If that's the case, I'm glad.
As she said, even if the past was a failure, it's about striving forward from here. With people I could rely on around me, I felt things would somehow work out. The food we shared while talking tasted even better than in my memories. They must have been making various improvements. It was a wonderful taste, reflecting the local efforts